Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Draft Show. The purists are happy. Red Ball Cricket. The County Championship is back. My name is Dan Jadzevics, joined by Dan Weston. How are you, Dan?
Mate, I'm well. Been enjoying the last couple of game weeks in the Blast, and now back into Red Bull cricket for a couple of weeks. So yeah, that'll be fun too.
The finer form of cricket. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Drop us a like on the video as well. And we would genuinely love to hear from you as to how your team is going this year. Who's been your signings of the summer? Who's disappointed you? Where are you in the leagues? We want to hear from you, so please drop us a comment, get involved. And hey, we might answer a few of those on next week's episode as well. But sponsor time and Neon Cricket are back. So it's a huge thanks to Neon Cricket for sponsoring this episode of the Cricket Draft. If you want to stand out from the crowd, then jump on their website. The link can be found in the description of this video, and check out their amazing bat range and loads of other great kit. But Dan, let's have a look back at game week 10, which, well, can you remember that far back? I mean, I'm struggling to recall it.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, obviously, with these Blast rounds that are between championship rounds or championship rounds between Blast rounds or whatever, however you want to spin it. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily make life easy for TCD players either with the switches of formats.
Yeah, well, it is those Kookaburra rounds. It was a Kookaburra round last time. It's Kookaburra again. We'll look back, game week 10. The top score for game week 10 was Stephen Baines with 3,093 points in the game week, just casually throwing Dom Sibley the captain's armband, which went quite well. And then top of the overall table, Sancho's Otters, run by Andrew Douglas, currently top with 17,780 points overall. So you and I, Dan, have got we've got some catching up to do. But as I say, it's still the Kookaburra. We've got 2 more rounds of it. 13 of the 18 games in the first 2 weeks of the Kookaburra ended up in draws. 4 batters have made the dream team in the last 2 weeks. Feels like a batter's game with the Kookaburra involved. Are we expecting it to continue, or do we have to start looking at weather forecasting apps and seeing what precipitation we might be getting around the country?
100%, yeah, and specifically leaving it as late as possible, unfortunately, which, yeah, it's going to be tricky. The alarms are going to be set, certainly in my household, ahead of the game week, and yeah, it's been an interesting one. And Dan, over the last game week, you picked up a load more points to add to your lead at the top of the table. You're in touching distance with the leaders, whereas I'm a couple of thousand points behind the top players in the game at the moment. So need some making up to do. Need to look for some differentials, and need to pay close attention to squads and weather this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you a weather watcher, or will you be a weather watcher? I know when we did the Big Bash, we spoke with our kind of previous host, Chris Dixon, didn't we? And he said that he would go through and look at weather forecast apps, and it feels like the kind of week that if you get things right, you could be in for an absolute hatful of points in terms of a big gain on other players. And if you get things wrong, you could be missing out on a lot. If you pick players that play at a ground that doesn't drain particularly well, or you pick players that play at a ground where the weather forecast looks significantly worse than others, you could be missing out on huge points. But can you use your penalty transfers to get the players in that you want? It could be a minefield this week.
Yeah, penalty transfers are a tricky one in Championship. I think in this situation, especially when we've got like maybe days or 2 days lost to weather, or potentially over the 4 days, drainage would be extreme. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who are looking at it. I actually did some previous research in this in the past, and I found that Midlands grounds tended to struggle more with deluges of rain than at other areas, and I think that's to do with that drainage element of things. Yeah, so that's stuff to bear in mind. In terms of long range weather forecasts, I'm not a massive believer in it. I mean, like they told me that we were going to get a thunderstorm on Friday at my house, and the rain didn't come until midday the next day. So that was on Saturday. So you know, it's tough to get it spot on, but I think maybe leaving it as close as you can to getting those weather forecasts is probably a good idea, and then to look at more sort of a bigger picture of how the weather might affect your pace and spin balance in your squads.
Yeah, well, that's something we'll talk about a bit later. I know professional cricketers and coaches, they don't particularly spend too much time looking at the forecast. They'll play what's in front of them and then see what happens if and when any kind of weather arrives. But who was your standout player from game week 10? Who were good or bad? Did anybody surprise you from your squad from last week?
Well, maybe that's a coach's thing with the weather to start with, because I certainly in the past when I've had the radar up on this on the laptop, players huddling around it to see whether the rain is coming. So yeah, in terms of the game week 10 player pick, I'm going to go with Kyle Abbott, and as an illustration of sometimes good preparation doesn't necessarily yield results in this game. So, Dan, you're ahead of me. I decided to play my double captain. I decided to bring in Kyle Abbott after dominating. He dominated the last few weeks, and he picked up 63 points, 126 as captain, and yeah, didn't really produce the game week that I was hoping for in my attempt to catch you up, which now looks in vain.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. I mean, my player from that game week 10 is going to be Calvin Harrison. Now, I have to caveat all of this, and I have absolutely no idea with regards to his whereabouts for the next game week. So I don't know if he will be available. I don't know who he would play for. He's obviously a Nottinghamshire cricketer. He was on loan at Northamptonshire. He was down as a bowler in the cricket draft game. He batted at number 3, still bowled a load of overs, and he cost 5.8 million. What did he get? What did he return? 312 points for 5.8 million as a out and out batter as a bowler. It was quite a wild combination of fortune, but I have no idea where he's going to be for game week 11. I absolutely no clue whatsoever whether he's going to be a Northants player, whether he's going to be a Notts player, if he's even going to play in the game week. So that could be a little bit of a head scratch for me when those squads do get announced. But I mean, hopefully, one way or another, we see him on the cricket field, because he's been a fantastic player for Northants so far this year. Have a look at the dream team from game week 10. It was the highest scoring dream team possible for the season so far. If you had all these 11 players, you'd have picked up 3,941 points, with 4 of the players scoring more than 400 in that 11, the previous being only 2. George Balderson was the player of the week with 450 points after not surpassing 200 in the previous game weeks. But the 11, Dan, for that week: Adam Hose, Dom Sibley, Jake Libby, Alex Lees, George Balderson, Ben Kellaway, Justin Broad, James Bracey, Ben Code, Calvin Harrison, and Chris Green. Are there any of those players that you've got your eye on for this week to come in, or are you a little bit kind of wary as to who might be available, who they might be playing, or where they might be playing?
All of the above, really, mate. My decisions about this game week are going to really focus on the run up to the start of the game, but games basically, in terms of the weather and the opposition, and some team news. I think is really, really relevant as well. As you say, you don't know where or whether Calvin Harrison's actually going to play. A few things I noticed actually from that dream team is you got Sibley, Libby, Lees, 3 what a lot of people might call anti-Bazball batters, racking up huge points in the last game week. So maybe Bazball's loss is TCD's gain, and potentially a couple of what I would call miscategorized bowlers in the list as well. Harrison, obviously, we've spoken about, and also Chris Green at Lancs, who, yeah, he may have slipped the net for the all-rounder status, I think, maybe there.
Would you recommend one of those grinders? A real kind of nuggety batter to get in there for your TCD 11, particularly with these next 2 weeks of this Kookaburra ball. You get through 6-7 overs of it, and it seems to go square, and you can cash in on some pretty flat pitches. Would that be something you'd be looking for?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something a consideration for sure. The other consideration is if there's a load of rain forecast, everyone's going to struggle with the bat. Well, it's going to be much tougher anyway. And maybe you might go down the angle of just finding the cheapest batters you possibly can, hoping one of them comes off, and then throwing your money into bowlers instead. But yeah, let's see on that front. But yeah, no, definitely scope for that. And Sibley's had a very good season, and another player who probably in the past at least who's been that non-Bazball batter. Hasib Hamid's had a great season at Notts, even though he didn't make the dream team for last week.
Yeah, some very, very good options. Things that you might have missed from Game Week 10. And we spoke about Ben Slater a couple of weeks ago with the amount of 50s that he'd scored. But he scored 124 not out last time out, his 7th consecutive 50 in the championship. And he's still only owned by 1% of DOCs in the game. Adam Hose, we've just mentioned him, scored 266 off 253 in a partnership worth nearly 400 with Jake Libby down at the Utilita Bowl. Jack Leach opened the bowling for Somerset and bowled 53 overs in the innings, taking 6 wickets. 7 centuries were scored between Surrey and Durham in that ridiculous game at the Oval. Was it nearly 800 runs that Surrey scored, wasn't it, in that first innings? Was I don't know who at Durham upset Surrey in the build-up to that game, but it felt unnecessary to go out there and make them chase leather for 800 runs.
Yeah, I don't obviously at the game was at the Oval, so it's perhaps a little bit less relevant. But I do know that a couple of years ago there was a game where the away team ended up just batting and really putting the hours of fielding and bowling into the home team because they were so irritated about the pitch. It was just a complete non-result pitch, and they just thought, right, I'm gonna pile the runs on and just annoy you now, basically. So yeah, that maybe that does happen on occasion.
Bit of payback. Sussex used 9 bowlers versus Warwickshire in their second innings. Tom Clark was the only only outfielder that didn't get to have a bowl. Calvin Harrison scored 100, batting at number 3 as a bowler, who we've just spoken about. Justin Broad at Northamptonshire, an all-rounder, scored his first-class 100. He scored 157 off 137 balls with Saif Zabe, who scored his 5th first-class 100 of 2025 as well. So there's a few runs out there. You might have missed those bits, but they might be helpful for you when you look ahead to Game Week 11, which is exactly what we are about to do. So again, please let us know which players you're thinking about signing for Game Week 11. Maybe you're going to inspire the two of us as to who you're going to pick, and we might take some inspiration from you. But the biggest news, and it certainly affects me, Dan, and I think it might affect you, but there's no Liam Dawson this week.
No, I don't have him in my team anymore, so that was well eased out in advance. I wish I could say that I did that through skill, but I didn't. I think ultimately that means that players are going to have some budget to spend, and that can be redistributed somewhere else. So the question for me is, if you've got that money burning a hole in your pocket after releasing Liam Dawson from your squads, where do you spend it? And again, comments in the chat would be really interested to hear about that.
Yeah, well, he's been called up to that 4th test, isn't he, up at Old Trafford, because Shoaib Bashir's got a broken hand now. He's out for the rest of the season, so Liam Dawson will miss a couple of weeks at least, being available for the 4th and 5th test. But £9 million on the cricket draft. The most expensive player, is he, or is he just behind Joe Root at 9.1 million? Either way, he's right up at the upper echelons of it. 1,421 points through the course of the summer. He's selected by 43.4% of players. Now, some of those, not you that are watching this video, but some of those will have decided that they're kind of down the bottom of their leagues and possibly just given up by it now anyway, and Liam Dawson will just remain in those teams. But 43.4% of players have got a big hole to fill, and I'm one of them, Dan. Would there be, who, in that all-rounder category, or potentially a bowler, I suppose, or maybe even just an out-and-out batter? You're spoiled for choice, but are there any names that immediately jump out to you as fantastic options to replace him?
Dan, you've put me on the spot there. I think ultimately you could probably look at someone like Simon Harmer if you wanted to go for that spin, almost like for like. Although Harmer is categorised as a bowler, perhaps offers more batting than most bowlers. So you've got that as an option in terms of the like for likes. Or if you want to go for the veteran proven quality, will Jimmy Anderson at 8.4 million be able to exploit these conditions if it is a lot of rain around? That might be a consideration for me as obviously moving that into the bowling element. In terms of all-rounders, you've got Ryan Higgins, who tends to not let teams down, TCD favourite over the years probably, and It's tough to find a like for like in terms of that all-rounders. I just had a look at some other options. Ben Rain, 8.1, is potentially someone else. You could even look at a Hassan Ali at 8 million, who offers a little bit with the bat as well, if he's available for Warwickshire. So, yeah, a few options there. And then you've got the likes of Kyle Abbott, who's been a consistent performer as well. But then as soon as I bring him in, didn't do so.
I mean, one thing it's certainly going to do is I don't think 43.4% of players are all going to pick the same replacement. So it's going to really shuffle the pack up there. And there's going to be some teams with some real differential picks in amongst them. So again, if you've got Liam Dawson, let us know who you are thinking about replacing. One player that you didn't mention there as an option, maybe James Coles could be a good shout down at Sussex. Probably won't bowl as much with Jack Carson in the side, but in some good form. Overseas players, now this gets a bit tricky, so make sure you are following the Cricket Draft on the social, whether it's X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of those platforms, to stay up to date with as much of this news as you possibly can, because overseas availability is a bit tough. It's hard to figure out what's going on at the minute, but what we can potentially tell you is the following: that Cody Youssef is back for Durham. He's available. He was there earlier on in the season. Khalil Ahmed, we believe, is still available for Essex, who was part of the India A touring squad against the Lions earlier this year. Todd Murphy, still available at Gloucestershire. Tilak Varma, who's had a very, very good start to the summer. He's available for the next two games. We believe Marcus Harris is returning for Lancashire. Not 100% sure about Chris Green's availability, which is going to be something that could throw a spanner in the works of my 11 going forward. Sean Masood is yet to play a county championship game for Leicestershire, so could he come into the 11 this time around? But if he does, what does that mean with regards to their other overseas? And Kane Williamson, I don't think he's played a county championship game yet for Middlesex as part of this 2025 deal, but he could be available this week, Dan.
Well, that could be very, very interesting for owners to look at a player of the quality of Kane Williamson being available, presumably at a high price point as well. So maybe you might see some players with that Dawson money going and buying stocks in Kane Williamson instead.
Tim Robinson, his stint for Northamptonshire is over. He's gone back to play for New Zealand. Maybe Matt Bretsky's going to be available for some Red Bull cricket. Again, we don't know. Yuzvendra Chahal is around, though. He is available. Ishan Kishan, his stint at Nottinghamshire has finished. Matt Henry is also finished at Somerset. Sai Kishore has arrived at Surrey for a couple of games. Gurinder Sandhu should be available for Sussex with Nathan McAndrew as well. Corey Roccioli, I don't know whether we've got any better at pronouncing the Warwickshire Bears. Corey, he's available for the next couple of rounds of Kookaburra, and he went pretty well, to be fair, for Warwickshire in those two previous rounds, so could be a good option. Henry Nichols and Jacob Duffy have both finished for Worcestershire, but Khurram Shahzad is available. And then finally, we got the news the other day of the fact that Ruturaj Gaikwad won't be available for Yorkshire for these rounds of games. Well, I need to take a breather, Dan, but is there anybody there that you'd like to talk about and discuss in that second batch of overseas players?
Yeah, definitely. So if we're talking about Marcus Harris returning, he was a points machine earlier on in the season, and certainly would be very well used to Kookaburra balls as well. So that's something that you might want to consider if he is available. Obviously, you might want to wait for the squad news for that one. But yes, certainly he could be a good pickup. And then looking at the players who are just sort of coming back in, I'm so impressed with Sai Kishore coming to Surrey. I'm really excited to see that. He's a player that I've consistently pushed for a number of years about being perhaps unlucky not to play more in the IPL, and I'm really, really excited for him to play a couple of championship games. Left arm spinner, who probably I'd say in the Surrey team probably about number 9, but not the worst with the bat actually. And if he's categorised as a bowler, which I fully expect, he could be a really interesting option if the weather holds off and stays dry.
Is that a look into the future of Dan Weston's Cricket Draft 11 for Gameweek 11? Who knows? But yeah, could be a good option, and hopefully it stays dry, doesn't it? We are getting to that point of the season. We've spoken about differential picks and the fact that there are going to be teams that are going to have to look elsewhere from the fans' favourites. But here's a couple of options for you. Dan, I'll get your thoughts on these players as well. But players that low owned have done pretty well, could be a big differential for you. We're going to start with Tom Kohler-Cadmore at Somerset. They've struggled with openers so far at the course of this year, with injuries, with form, so much so that Josh Davey and Lewis Gregory opened the batting together a multiple number of times. And I think Josh Davey might even be the permanent choice up the top there now. But he's played twice. He has cashed in massively against the Red Bull, averaging 226 points per game and owned by 1% of players. Good option for you, Dan?
Possibly. I need differentials, so all of these suggestions are fantastic for me. Yeah, obviously very, very good players. Somerset have struggled, haven't they, in terms of those batting combos and opening batters and stuff like that. So yeah, it feels like it could be well set for Tom Cadmore to put some performances in through the back end of the season. Yeah.
Ben Sanderson, Northamptonshire stalwart seamer. He's been taking wickets for fun in the T20 Blast. He hasn't been available for the last couple of weeks. That was a bit of paternity leave and potentially a little bit of workload management with the Blast fixtures there for Gloucestershire and for Middlesex, but is available going forward for the next two. He is a differential pick. He's in good form. He's taken plenty of wickets. He's the kind of cricketer that will struggle with a Kookaburra cricket ball, though, Dan. Is he someone that you're thinking about bringing into your team?
Ben Sanderson, stalwart of the game for a number of years. Look, I think that he still could be quite effective with the Kookaburra ball in terms of, because he just hits good areas, so he should get some maidens, economy bonuses, etc. And obviously celebrating 100 wildcard call up, which was the first time he's had that as well. So maybe he could go well in this game week.
Certainly in good form. Grant Stewart, another player that's in good form, who's just qualified for the T20 World Cup with Italy as well. So something to look forward to for Grant Stewart in the next couple of years. Australian-born, playing for Italy. He's owned by 2.3% of cricket draft DOCs. He scored 202 points per game in his 7 matches that he's played so far this year. Some absolutely astonishing innings with the bat in hands, kind of match saving and end of the innings, ridiculous strike rates, 474 points against Gloucestershire earlier on. Good option for you, Dan, maybe?
Yeah, well, big fan of Grant Stewart as a player and as a guy. I know him well from my time at Kent. Someone who works really, really hard and has put a lot of time and effort into working on his batting. And I think we've seen that. We've definitely seen the rewards of that. The game 10 miss out for him probably was due to the Italy commitments, which obviously, delighted for him and Italy that they've managed to get into the T20 World Cup for the first time as well. So a fantastic achievement for them. Could he come back with a big game in game week 11? Yeah, absolutely possible. Someone that I would consider, yeah.
Absolutely. Joe Cracknell, he's come in to play Championship cricket for the first time this year. He scored 207 points against Northamptonshire, another 158 against Leicestershire, owned by just over 1% of players. Pretty cheap option. You could give him the gloves, you could play him as an out-and-out batter. Somebody to consider, or would you look elsewhere from Joe Cracknell?
Well, I talked earlier about finding some good cheap batters in this game week, and I think he falls into that bracket. And he scored an avalanche of runs in the twos over this season, and it took so long for Middlesex to pick him across formats, and I felt sorry for the guy because I felt that he did deserve to play a lot more, he's finally come in and hit the ground running in this championship cricket. 1.1% selected, a real differential, and I think we could be considering Joe Cracknell ahead of this game week.
And finally, how about Liam Patterson-White? Now, his availability, form, could have an impact on Calvin Harrison's availability and form with regards to the next game weeks. But you've got to go back to the 25th of April for Liam Patterson-White when he last scored less than 100 points on the cricket draft in the Championship this year. He's gone through 1,000 points. He's only owned by 1.4% of players. He is going to bowl a hatful of overs against Hampshire and Somerset in the next couple of weeks. And he's going to be at the top end of that tail for Nottinghamshire as well, so could contribute with a few runs. Averaging 180 points per game, 161 points per million as well, Dan. He feels like a genuine, massive under-the-radar pick and player that could be available for this week.
You nailed it, mate. Under the radar is the exact description that's required here. Going 5 weeks, scoring minimum 140 points each week, and 180 points per game over the season, but selected by 1.4% of players. What are TCD directors of cricket missing out on here with Liam Patterson-White? He's got over 400 batting points, over 600 bowling points. I mean, what more could you ask for? And obviously, had a really good blast as well. And I've been part of the process that picks him up in the wild card as well. So Liam Patterson-White looks a great pick.
Is he the direct replacement for Liam Dawson? Is he the guy? Do you go Liam for Liam, Dan?
You could do, and if you did do that, you'd have some budget to reinvest somewhere else as well. So, could well be a good option.
You certainly would. Well, he's not, because he's not in the top 5 most signed players for Game Week 11. So I don't know what you're up to, DOCs. Liam for Liam, it just makes sense. Calvin Harrison is the most signed player. 7% of DOCs have signed Calvin Harrison. We know exactly why. But we don't actually know whether he's going to be available this week or not. So it might be worth kind of just keeping your powder dry on that one at the moment. Dom Sibley comes in as well. Simon Harmer, unsurprisingly. Safe Zabe into that top 5 of players coming in. And somebody who we've not spoken about, good cheap option and potentially a replacement for Liam Dawson, Ben Kellaway.
Yeah, Ben Kellaway, another player who's really impressed this year, both with bat and ball. And so it just goes to show the depth of players that are in this County Championship game, that we can have so many options and there's still going to be differentials.
Absolutely. Players going out. Liam Dawson, unsurprisingly, sits top of that table. Matt Henry, who's finished, Max Holden, Toby Rowland-Jones, and Ian Hollands, who has made his way out of people's 11s. Although I think he might be available again now that MLC is finished. So maybe don't get rid of him just yet. One funny thing to mention as well is that Liam Dawson is still captained by 20.5% of DOCs in the game so far. So if you're watching this, sort it out. Dan, what substitutions are you making for Game Week 11? I know you've said you're going to leave it last minute, but are there players that are definitely making their way out? Are there players that are definitely coming in for you? Have you got those things noted down already?
No, certainly not.
Right, okay.
It's going to be a last minute thing for me. Obviously, we've only got the two free transfers, so we're limited in terms of what we can do. Could penalty transfers be a risk with weather about potentially? I think hopefully over the episode we've talked a lot about our thought processes and the basic concepts of what we're going to try and do this week. In terms of names, I think it's really, really tough at the moment to specify anybody. But we've probably touched on 20 players or so over this episode who potentially could be good options. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes from those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have the big issue of Liam Dawson. I'm thrilled for him, for starters, to get that England call-up and be available for Test cricket again. It's fantastic. I don't think many people would have predicted it with what had been spoken about in the press from him a couple of years ago, from the investment in Shoaib Bashir as well. Obviously, the injury there has kind of curtailed his summer. But that's thrown a real spanner in the works, because I think for a lot of people, myself included, expected just to leave Liam Dawson in that 15-person or 15-player squad for the remainder of the year, pick up the points, allocate 9 million quid, and then figure out what you're going to do with the other 14. So it has thrown a spanner in the works. Yeah. I'd love to see Matthew Bretsky play red ball cricket for Northamptonshire. He has been in ridiculous form. I'd be surprised if he's not playing all format international cricket consistently for South Africa in the not too distant future. And then I don't know. I don't know at the moment. I have that problem. I have Chris Green in my 11. He is a potential headache for me. Calvin Harrison is another potential headache for me. Liam Dawson, obviously a headache. So I've potentially already made one penalty substitution just to get players out on the field at the moment. I do have Ian Holland on the bench. Probably not going to pick the points up that he did at the start of the year with the Kookaburra in hand. Ben Geddes, he is on my bench. He had been in my team for most of the year, left him on the bench, and he's got 229 points. So maybe he makes his way back into that starting 11 as well. But there's certainly a bit of head scratching to be done this week.
Yeah, I actually had Geddes in my team. He was one of the shining lights, actually, the rare shining lights over the game week. So much head scratching. I've got some bench options that I could bring in potentially as well, like a Ben Green or a Farhan Ahmed. So I've got some flexibility where it comes to making those changes. But yeah, it's going to be really, really tricky and probably a last minute effort ahead of this game week.
I think so. I think so. Well, thank you for joining us, Dan. Thank you for watching, everybody. As I say, if you're new, subscribe, drop us a like on the video, and please do let us know how you're getting on this year, because we would genuinely like to know. And we'll see you next week when we look ahead to Game Week 12 and see if we got anything right when we spoke about Game Week 11.